So children, what does the poet tell us? We will try to understand here. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow. Now the poet, what he tells us here in this first line of the second stanza here, he says here why he wants to go there. He gives the reason why he wants to visit that place and why does he want to live there. The poet tells us that he wants to go there. Why he wants to go there? Because he wants to have peace in his life. But if he goes there, the poet tells us that he will not get the peace, okay, immediately. He will not receive the peace immediately. The peace which he will receive will be very slow, it will be very gradual, and it will come, okay, as the droplets or the raindrops as they fall from the sky. So same way here the peace which he will receive will be like raindrops dropping slowly, okay, in the hands of or in the heart of the poet here. So the poet tells us that he will receive peace, but the peace which he will receive will be like raindrops which falls slowly from the sky here. This is how the poet will receive peace. Dropping from the vales of the morning to where cricket sings. Now in second line the poet tells us that how he will receive peace. Again further he describes in the second line here that the peace which he will receive will be dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. Now we need to understand the meaning of vales. Vales, a thin layer. The meaning of vales is a thin layer of something stops one from seeing something or somebody. So it is like a layer of something, a layer of cloth, a layer of something which what it does here, it creates, okay, a kind of hurdle here, or it kind of, okay, layer here which protects or which prevents us, we can say here, which prevents us from seeing what is on the other side here. So actually veil is a metaphor here. Veils, what it tells us here, what does it, okay, tell us here? Veil is compared to what here? The veil is compared to fog of early morning or the mist of the early morning. So children, you might have observed that during rainy season or in winter season, you might have observed that in the morning, early in the morning, when you go out for walking or when you are driving or whenever you are going with your parents, so you might have observed that what happens here, sometimes we see, okay, fog or mist in early in the morning. So this is what happens here, and because of that fog or because of that mist, what happens here, we are unable to see what is on the other side. So generally people, those who are driving here, they drive very slowly, they ride their bikes very slowly here, because what happens, because we are unable to see what is on the other side here. So in order to avoid accidents, this is why we take precautions. So same way here the poet, okay, what he tells us, that the peace is dropping. He is receiving the peace. He is receiving. How he is receiving the peace? He is receiving the peace from the mist, from the fog, from the veils of the morning. The mist which is created, which is created in the morning, or which spreads in the morning. From that fog or from that mist, the poet receives the peace, and it is in the form of drops here, to where the cricket sings here. And the poet further explains here, he further says here that how does he receive the peace? He receives the peace from the crickets singing here, from the crickets singing here. When he hears the sound, when he hears the singing of cricket, he actually, when he hears this sound, when he hears this singing here, he is feeling very happy, he is feeling contented, and because of that he is getting peace in his heart. There midnight's all a glimmer and noon a purple glow. So the poet, what he says here, how is midnight, okay, in that place here in Innisfree, midnight is a glimmer here. Now we can look at this image where moon is there here. So we know that what is the meaning of glimmer? The meaning of glimmer is a faint unsteady light. So the light which we receive at night, okay, is kind of a glimmering, okay, glimmering light here. So the poet says here that at night here he sees glimmering everywhere. The light which he receives is a glimmering light. Why? Because he is not living in city. We know that in cities, when it is night time or when it is midnight, okay, everywhere there are street lights, everywhere there are lights, electricity is there, okay, so everything is lighted, okay, well enough here, so we don't, okay, find that much difficult here. But in this type of island here, imagine that we are going on this type of island, so where there is no electricity here, so we have to live in this type of environment, natural environment. So the poet says that midnight is all a glimmer, okay, there is no electricity there. The light which he is receiving is a natural light, moonlight, okay, and noon a purple glow. So the poet says here that especially what happens here when we are outside the cities, so when the rays of the sun which is received, okay, which is received at the time of afternoon here, it looks, okay, purple to us here. So here the poet compares morning, midnight and afternoon here, okay, in different manner here. The poet says here that midnight it is all a glimmer, he receives the natural light, and purple, and noon is a purple. Afternoon is, how is afternoon, how is the atmosphere afternoon, it is purple glow here, so it looks purplish, okay, when, okay, we are in this type of island here. And evenings full of linnet's wings. The poet says here that at evening, okay, what happens here, the birds, linnet, okay, these birds, what they are doing here, they are returning to their nest, they are returning to their homes here. So this is what the poet, okay, tells us in the second stanza here. So the poet tells us how does he receive the peace. He receives the peace dropping slow, he receives the peace in the form of drops, he receives the peace from the wails of the morning, he receives the peace from the cricket singing, he receives the peace from the midnight's glimmer, noon's purple glow, and evening is full of the linnet's wings here. So all these things, okay, help us to the poet, it helps the poet to receive peace here. So this is how the poet receives peace. Now we will move ahead. Now third stanza, the poet, what does he say in third stanza, we will see. The poet, what does he tell? Now in third stanza, the poet tells us, I will arise and go now, for always night and day. I will hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavements grey. I hear it in the deep heart's core. Now the poet tells us in the last stanza here, I will arise. Now poet is repeating this line again here. And what he says here, that I will arise and go now, for always night and day. Now the poet tells us that he will wake up, and what he will do, he will go now, he will go immediately, he will wake up now and he will go immediately. The poet is trying to emphasize here that he is having a strong desire to visit that place here, and for always night and day means always he wants to, what he wants to do, he wants to spend his whole life, we can say he wants to spend his entire life there. I will hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey. I hear it in the deep heart's core. Now we need to understand the meaning of core, lapping and pavement here. The meaning of core, you might know the meaning here, but for our understanding here, I have written the meaning here. The most important or central part. Now the meaning of lapping we will see here. The meaning of lapping is to touch something gently and regularly, often making a soft sound. And the meaning of pavement is a flat part at the side of a road for people to walk on. So now here the poet, what he says here, I will hear the lake water lapping with the low sounds by the shore. So children, what is the meaning of lapping here? Lapping means here touching or hitting. So the water of the lake, what it does here, it hits or it touches the shore of the lake here, and what it happens here, when the water hits the shore, it produces low sound, and the poet tells us that he feels happy when he hears this lapping sound. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core. Now the poet tells us, while I stand on the roadway. So the poet, now he comes back, okay, in present here. Till that time, okay, he was recalling all these memories, and the poet tells us that while he is walking on the roadway, he is okay in his city where he is living here. He tells us that while he is walking, okay, in London streets here, he says here that while I am walking on the roadway, or while I am standing on the pavement's grey. Pavement's meaning is here a flat part at the side of a road for people to walk on. So when he is standing there, or whenever he is walking, okay, in this what here we can see here, city's life here, the poet tells us that still in last line he tells us, I hear it in the deep heart's core. So the poet tells us, though I am in the city, though I am walking, okay, on the roadway or on the pavement here, but still I carry, okay, those memories. I still hear, okay, that music in my deep heart's core here. Still I carry that feeling, that happiness, okay, in my deep heart here. Heart's core means here in deep hearts, okay, he is carrying this here. So I hope you all have understood the poem. Now we will see here the poetic devices which are used in the third stanza. The poetic devices which are used. The first device which is used is antithesis. Now what is antithesis? When opposite ideas are placed side by side for emphasis, it is called antithesis. In the first line of third stanza, night and day show opposite ideas. I will arise and go now, for always night and day. So children, see here, when opposite ideas are placed side by side for emphasis, it is called antithesis. So now here in this line here, I will arise and go now, for always night and day. Night and day, these are the opposite words here. These are the opposite ideas which are placed side by side. So here the figure of speech which is used is antithesis. Now second figure of speech which is used in this last stanza, in this third stanza, is alliteration. When similar sound or similar letters are used to produce poetic effect, it is called alliteration. In the second line of third stanza, the sound of L and letter S is repeated. H letter is repeated in the last line of the third stanza. I will hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. So children, see here, the letter or the sounds which are repeated are L and S. So lake, here L, okay, letter is repeated, and lapping, again here L, this letter is repeated, and next is here sounds, low sounds by the shore. So here S letter is repeated. Now if we move ahead, okay, and if we see the second line here, next line here, I hear it in the deep heart's core. So here the letter H is repeated. I hear, H letter, and hearts, H letter. So we can say that alliteration is used. Thank you.